Gentlemen, if I could have your attention, we'll go ahead and get our workshop meeting called to order. And just a reminder of those who might be watching on our YouTube channel that tonight's workshop will not involve any voting other than the approval of the agenda. All of these items that we'll be discussing tonight are for the voting at our regular council meeting on the third Monday of September. So you all have a copy of the agenda in front of you, and Jessica does her usual good job of sending those out to us in plenty of time. So unless there is any amendment to the agenda, I'll take a motion to approve. Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, MJ. And welcome back from Sweden, by the way. We're glad to have you back in person with us. So we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, so that is approved. Under new business, Pete, you've got the first couple of things. Under new business, the project for the review of long-term plan for infrastructure improvement.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. As each of you know, as you developed your goals each year, we talked about priorities, we talked about infrastructure, and obviously that's high on your list. And myself, Trey Gavin, and Jeff have been working on a priority project plan for quite some time, and now that it's pretty distinctive, we're ready to push this forward. I wanted to show you what it said and go through it with you. Trey couldn't be here tonight, but he'll certainly come back in the near future. But this is high level, and this is probably from 1 to 3 years priority plan that we could follow. Very, very comprehensive, and again, it looks at infrastructure with water, sewer, stormwater, and even GIS. And again, it doesn't really have boundaries. It is the worst of the worst infrastructure that we have. Some of the main concerns that we continue to have throughout the city with regard to stormwater, and then prices, how to fix this. And I'll just pause there. The priority plan is obviously very important for us, but more importantly, the state has just issued a call for a grant opportunity with some of this federal money coming down for infrastructure. And we're set to apply for that. There's considerable funds that would be available. So we are using this plan as a jump-off point for this grant application via the state. So realistically, with the federal money that we receive for infrastructure, which was it's going to be $5.2 million, we're going to put this up against as a match for 50%. And hopefully, if we could get another $4 million of federal monies via grant to improve our infrastructure, that would be a big win for us. And again, all the governments have opportunity to do this. We're just way ahead of the curve. So with that said, I want to carry you through this and let you ask any questions that you may have. But the introduction is very simple. The first on page 2 is the priority for water system projects. Again, I'm going to go real quickly, but fire hydrant replacements, this is, again, through our service system area, so it's not in one area. So $250,000 to improve old fire hydrants. The water distribution improvement, Carpenter Road, this is a 12-inch loop connection. The western side of the city has experienced some development, so we have to take that into consideration. Very, very important that we use this term loop, and it's exactly what it is. It connects this water system or water pipe to this water pipe, and it loops. So it is more consistent. We put in better valve systems. We have better coverage like that, so it's very, very important that we do it. Replacements, here you talk about water distribution replacement projects. This is some of the worst stuff that we have in the system that we need to replace. A lot of it's galvanized, a lot of it's fire protection, a lot of it is areas that we've had numerous water leaks. But you can see, it's considerable monies when you start talking about making improvements like this, whether it's capital improvements or whether it is system improvements. So very, very defined exactly what it is, but that cost summary for water system projects is just that $3.5 million. So again, all in all, if we were to be able to do all this for $3.5 million, we would really make a lot of progress within the whole system. So that is a snapshot on the water. The next page is a map, so you can see it's the entire service area that we're focusing on, making sure that we understand the entire picture on what we're working for and towards as we make these improvements. On page 5 is the sewer system. Again, very, very technical. The first one is the lift station improvements and putting in bypass pumps. This is at 3 major lift stations that the majority of flow go towards. Very, very comprehensive when you talk about pumps that chew up sewage and send it to the plant. But we are a little behind on our improvements, and if one of those lift stations ever goes down, it would be catastrophic. So we're ahead of this. We need to make sure that we're keeping our eyes on pumps and piping to support that. Ridge Avenue, we have a lift station there that continues to be an issue. We're recommending a vertical turbine pump or a submersible pump to replace this, but again, $500,000 is not a simple price tag to do that in one particular area. Same thing with the Agorama. Every time we have a bad rain, the Agorama and the lift station there floods. And if it floods, that means we have a spill. And if we have a spill, then EPD has to know about it. So Agorama, that has to be fixed. Again, I'll call it a bad design. Some of the lift stations are not what they should have been. And it costs a lot of money to upgrade them. So this is where you're seeing some of the large money. And then back to the wastewater treatment plant on some of the other rehabs, everything from a SCADA system to pumps to valves, that we are just a little behind times on keeping the treatment plant up to standards of today, and then looking forward 10, 15 years in the future. So the summer for sewer, you're looking at $3 million for improvements if we are able to do it all. Again, next page is a map that shows you all the connections. Again, lift stations are way on the outside of our service area, reach way into the county. Again, that's how it's designed, and all that flow goes to the treatment plant, so it's not in one designated area. On page 8 is the storm drainage. Storm drain and storm water continues to be a pretty sizable issue for us with utilities. And the first order business, the Magnolia ditch, it really needs to be rehabbed. The pipes, if you remember, obviously everyone, you remember where we had the sinkhole and the Shoney's caved in. That was on this trunk line of Magnolia. So we're way up by the bread store, the bread store coming from Town and Country. And really, if you ever saw the size of the ditch, you'd know what I'm talking about, but it really looks like a mini Grand Canyon. I mean, it is deep, and it is needing some attention. All that storm water that comes from the bowling alley, the DOT, comes through the Magnolia ditch, goes underground, under Tractor Supply, underneath Virginia, underneath Staples, and then out and discharges underneath I-75 and goes out towards the hotels. But we are starting to see some voids in the asphalt. We're starting to see some areas that have sinkholes starting to develop that we don't want to get into that situation. So this is on tap of probably one of the main corrections that we have to do before something else happens. So extensive work, and if anybody would love to walk the pipes underneath from Magnolia to Virginia, Jeff is more than willing to take you. Wes, you may have to duck a little bit, but they're that big, and I think there's 3 of them, 3. So literally you could walk with a flashlight and go underneath ground, and you could see it if you like. It's pretty cool if you like that experience, but again, where the pipes were put together years ago, the seams are starting to break away, and that when that water comes through that at such a high velocity, it's starting to give the earth away, so we have to correct that.
Is that, would that be the 750, is that like a phase, or would that take care of the entire issue?
I think that would be a phase. We could probably fix the joints and things like that if we needed to do major repairs, that we can do it, not by the end, but I haven't got a chance to talk to people. We do have one failure right there at the tractor supply parking lot, and getting them to come to finish gas with free pipe. 60 feet of pipe is $80,000.
So again, we're not, yeah, well, this won't be improving, covering everything up. This, there's been talks about piping that. That is a bad idea. We just need to stabilize the banks, but most of the earthwork underneath would have to be putting the joints back together, making sure that the pipes are secure.
Right.
So. New River Basin, this is detention pond modeling, again, for detention. And then the same thing with other areas for storm drainage, like Belmont Avenue and then Ridge Avenue. We continue to have issues at those particular areas. So about $1 million for stormwater, if we could do it all. But obviously, these are just the quick priorities that we would be looking at. The map is there for you to see. And then we have some GIS and mapping upgrades that we like to do. This is keeping track of everything that's modeled. We know from a GIS standpoint where we're working, where the failures are, and obviously we need some improvements when it comes to our automation with regards to infrastructure. Last page is a summary, so you can see again, water, sewer, storm, GIS, $7.7 million. If we could click our fingers and we had the money, I would recommend that we look at this pretty hard. 1 to 3, maybe 5 years of work that's already slated. But if we could use this as our pivot point to yield to the state to say we need some more infrastructure money, and we use that with the ARP money, we would be really good shape on putting some emphasis on infrastructure like it's never been done before. Yes, sir.
So how much do we know we have?
We know with the ARP money, we know we're going to have just that $5 million.
Okay. So if that's all we get, if we look to see what would be the cost if we wanted to borrow the other money, at some point, it's pay me now or pay me later. And as you know, paying right now with something fails, it's going to cost twice probably what you're going to have to pay otherwise. So it makes sense to me to, see what the cost to borrow, and let's get it done.
Yeah, interest rates are down.
Yeah, I don't.
Get what we need, get it done, and then,
I don't think we'd have to borrow money at this particular point. And I think we're going to come away, even if it's $3 million from the state. So that would put us at 7, maybe $8 million bucks. But we have SPLOST 6 monies that is available, and I would say that I would recommend to use the SPLOST 6 monies to pick up the slack.
I mean, we need to fix this infrastructure. I mean, things are just falling apart. It hadn't been repaired.
Well, I think it's fallen apart, but looking back, if you look back 10 years, 5 to 10 years, there hasn't been much.
Pipes are collapsing. We've had roads shut down because the pipe collapsed and that kind of stuff. So
yeah, there hasn't been much done. And again, we have a system as large as ours is, with the amount of infrastructure in the ground, and you go for years and years and years of not doing things, or you just flat with regard to maintenance, the results aren't good.
Well, let me ask you the other thing. When you say capacity issue fire protection and replace galvanized, increase fire flow, how big is the risk here? I mean, is it from a fire, are they going to get there and there's not going to be enough flow? I mean,
Yeah, again, it's a classic example where, houses were built years ago or subdivisions were put in and there wasn't the right infrastructure in the ground. So now, here we are years later and we have homes, heavily populated area, undersized infrastructure, and no fire hydrants. So it's a classic recipe for disaster if anything ever happens.
Well, we need to borrow $3 million and get that fixed now, not over 1 to 5 or 3 to 5 years or whatever. I mean,
Well, let me ask this though, since SPOS dollars was available to us, how much do you think would be there, and then, is that joint SPOS dollars?
No, this is monies, that it's just for us, I mean, water, sewer, the city put that in, so there's no more joint monies.
But the likelihood of us getting this grant money is pretty high,
I
from
say
what I
it's,
understand.
we're high on, I
We've,
think we're
we've
gonna be real
talked
competitive.
to, I've had some pretty extensive conversations with, the representatives that are allocating this grant money, and we are like custom fit
I
for
was gonna say, I
some.
would think that these would match.
I'm just saying, let's don't wait, even if we think we're gonna get it, don't wait on some of this stuff. It's critical to me, when we start talking about fire protection and flow.
Well, some of it
and-
probably is gonna take a long time to do, so I don't think it's even, correct me if I'm wrong, that was, I mean, this can't all be fixed in 6 months.
Yeah, this is,
So-
we have, to again, if you want to use this, obviously, I think you will, the priority project plan, we just need to take the most pressing, and start engineering it and get it out to bid and start correcting some of these issues.
Would that storm drainage issue on Magnolia be the most pressing?
Yes.
I don't think so, because it's, carries such a, I mean,
It's-
obviously, fire suppression.
Well, unless it's your
is
house
there.
on one of these streets and there's not enough
Well,
fire.
I mean,
flow.
I get that too, I mean,
That's-
but, I would say those are probably 1A, 1B.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it, just tertiary, where I'm gonna do priority for water, it's gonna go first, and then we're gonna bid the sewer, and then stormwater. We gotta work all three at the same time, and they're different contractors that a lot of, you will find that to do the work, so,
Yeah, I mean, the issue now is public. And somebody, okay, you knew, and Rob will sit over there and start cringing because, okay, something happened, you say, well, city, you knew, what have you done about it?
Yeah, but we didn't have this document. This is like our comp plan for
Oh,
infrastructure.
Oh, I agree,
so,
that's why I say
yeah.
now
Yeah.
it's public about what's
So-
going on, so.
So it sounds like you've got the support of the council to move forward.
well, again, you have never, I don't think you've seen a plan or.
We
outline
haven't. We've
like
never
this.
had
No,
it.
we've
like
talked
this.
about it, and I
Talked about it,
appreciate you
right.
getting this
Yeah.
together.
So this is really a good move for us. If we could plead to the state for some more monies, we'll have literally work going on for 3 years straight. This doesn't have anything to do with paving and other things that we normally do too, but infrastructure, and obviously I'm glad the federal government understood that there's a lot of infrastructure needs, and this is, you could take grants or loans out all day, but there's going to be needs right after we fix this. There's going to be some more that will need
There'll
some
always,
attention. There'll always be.
always, let's
Yep.
just get started tomorrow.
So I think it's a great plan. I appreciate Trey's work, and Jeff has put a lot of time into it. And again, it's very succinct because one time we're looking at the wastewater plant. You can't forget about that. The other, we're looking at stormwater, and then we need JAS to keep it all in track. So I think it's clean. I think it's a good plan, and we're going to work on it. And the grant applications for a grant are due in October. We should hear something in by November. And when I meet with Trey, we're going to probably start peeling through this and see what we can engineer first.
Good. Very good. All right, any other questions or comments? Excellent plan, Pete. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. And Jeff, thank you. And please tell Trey thank you for your hard work on this. Having this priority plan is very significant, so we appreciate that. All right, is this the youth development? All right.
Okay, so we broke ground on the Youth Development Center. Bids were collected last week, and I wanted to share with you that we had 3 bidders. A lot of interest, but we only had 3 bidders, and the low bid was from Harper and Company Builders for $1,354,700. So in, again, simple terms, without getting into some of the details, my recommendation tonight or for next meeting would that we'd honor the bid from Harper and Company Builders to say, okay, you are the low bidder, and I need to get in front of them with Larry and probably a URA board member, because as of right now, we're a mile out. We have some, some overages that we need to consider. And we need to discuss with Harper and Companies if there are any other options with regards to building. And, 4,000 something square foot, this is pretty strong, even for a commercial building, that is pretty basic. So that's what needs to happen next. I know, we need to deliver on this, but we certainly can't pick up the shortages with the spread. So I need to get in front of them. I need to bring you a solution to this and see how close we could get to the original amount of, pretty close to $900,000 was our part plus the $750,000.
All right, does anyone have any issue with what Pete's proposing as far as getting back with this contractor to see if we can whittle these costs back down and get them
certainly.
back in budget? Yeah. Yeah, it's,
What was that original estimate?
915.
You got $1.3 million? Thanks.
all right, if y'all are good with that, then that's what we'll do. So,
And
okay.
so what we have to do is, next meeting, if you will, I guess Rob, we'll have to work the wording that we accept a bid. We just need to work on the language because we can't accept the 1.3.
We can negotiate with them, so
Yeah, we'll need to
All
negotiate.
right, and you've seen what you're satisfied with the quality of work of this particular contractor and?
Yeah, they're really experienced, especially
Okay.
in this application. There's, just like Jessica knows that dealing with CDBG, there's certain things that they
Sure.
have to do and reports they have to fill out and do it a certain way. There's a lot to it, so these contractors are very, very familiar and his
Okay.
work, he's got a lot of experience
Okay,
doing that. But we just need to negotiate because
Sure.
we have a lot to.
now,
a
do
lot
you
of work
need to
do.
wait for us to vote on that, or can you go ahead and start those conversations?
I think you can go ahead and start those conversations as far
Okay.
as, negotiating, see if
Right,
we can.
they are the low bidder, I mean, there's no question about that, so if that would just put us a couple of weeks ahead of the game if y'all could go ahead and have those conversations instead of waiting for
Okay.
us and then having the conversation, so.
I think you can go forward with, see what he can do.
Okay, all right, so Pete,
Okay.
you and Larry will work on that?
Yeah, and Crystal will come in on the conversations,
Okay.
and probably Jessica too, so we all make sure we don't miss anything, but at least get the discussions going, and hopefully I'll have some info for you next meeting.
Sure, okay. All right, is everybody good with that?
Yeah,
Is that good?
I just want to add, Pete, I know that cost of construction, all that stuff, it is what it is. If we get to a point where we're gonna have to add more money, can you also kind of give us some options on that part?
I will, I've talked with Larry about that today. I'm prepared to give you two options.
Okay.
And obviously, I'll have that for you, probably by next meeting.
Perfect.
Okay, all right, any other questions on the Youth Development Center in that project? Okay, next item is review of the intergovernmental agreement with the City of Nashville for natural gas. Mr. Jeff West.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to come before y'all. The current agreement runs out this month in September. That it's been going on for 10 years. 10 years ago, the City of Tifton went into agreement with the City of Nashville to provide them with natural gas service to the northern part of Berrien County out there going towards Nashville. It does serve, I think, 4 or 5 farmers and 1 house. It was meant to serve farms. The gist of the new contract, and I worked with MGAG, got their input on this, Pete, Rob's, and we all looked at it together. We are the only city in the state that sells gas to another city. MGAG recommended that we go with the same rates that we do with commercial interruptible, and which is the same thing they're paying now, with the exception they've never paid a city distribution charge, which is $1.25 per MCF. A lot of money over 10 years. But that's the biggest change in the contract, to add that charge. And we feel like that's more than fair. That's the same thing we charge our commercial rates.
And like I said, it would increase them $1.25 per MCF. Everything else is pretty much the same.
Yeah, I will tell you, Council, there was some question on the dates, whether it was this year or next year.
Yeah.
This is a 10-year contract. The contract, when it was done 10 years ago, we have some work to do, and I think Jeff has proposed the right. Rob has had conversations with the city attorney there about money that we still owe them from a deposit, so we have satisfied all of that. But they've had some turnover with the city, so my job for the next 2 weeks is talking through whoever's in charge now, Nashville, about the details of this contract. So I'll be doing that with them.
Is this really a good, is this a good thing for the city of Tifton?
I would, if you asked me that, 10 years ago, I would have said absolutely no way it's not good for us. Because it was flat with, we put pipe in the ground to Nashville, Georgia, and didn't receive a red cent for
Right.
it. And we sold gas where we broke even. So contracts are for contracts. If we're in the utilities, then we don't do things for free. So we just have some different language this time around, and I want to talk that over with the city of Nashville, whoever's who's leading there now, and I will do that. They may not even want this.
Right. So it may take care of itself.
I don't, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Wasn't this, a year or two ago, it was a loser? I mean, something, and didn't we have, wasn't this the one we had a discussion?
No, I
How
don't
in the
think-
world did we get into it? We were losing money.
I don't think we ever lost anything.
Oh, yeah, we broke even. I mean, the distribution charge is what it is. We're still getting paid for what we're paying for the gas, but we're making $0 on the gas.
Again, I think with in hindsight, I think when you spread utilities, just like Rob said, you don't never hear of a city selling another city gas. And I
Right.
think whoever did the original contract saw this as an opportunity, in which I agree, but 10 years at a flat rate, it's kind of hard because you can't make anything for it. So now, if we charge it like this and they do accept it, then at least we'll be, making some, and it's still a good deal. But natural gas, that's sometimes you have to.
It's the same rate that we charge ABAC, we charge UGA, we charge the hospital. It's the same rate we charge those.
How many
customers.
MCFs do they take in a month?
I'd have to go back and look, but during the summer months, hardly any. Right now, it's very little usage. It's the fall crop seasons.
They using it to dry up tobacco? Is that what
Yes,
they're doing?
and peanuts.
It's really a source, and I think that's the way it originated. Tifton was a source of natural gas. There was no peak or off-peak.
And just listening to people a long time ago, there was a plan for Nashville to eventually they've got their own gas system to tie into that, and then we would have another loop in case something ever happened. But that has never, to the best of my knowledge, transpired, that they have never attempted to run gas and tie to it to where they would have gas on their side, and then we could just turn the valve off, and it would be there if either city ever needed help.
Okay,
So
well,
I
you'll
wanted to
research that.
I wanted to start, Jeff and Rob has helped with
Okay.
this, so we appreciate it. I think we're ready to go forward because of the tight timeline. I wanted to introduce this to you, make sure you had an opportunity to ask questions. Jeff and I will get to work in the next 2 weeks and have an answer by the next meeting on, where we think we are. So,
Okay. Okay, any questions of Jeff or Pete on this? Okay, everybody good? All right, thank you. All right, thank you, Jeff. All right, our next item is discussion of proposed amendments to the alcohol ordinance and requirements for package stores. So I want to remind people, early voting does start next month. And one of the items that all of our city residents, city voters will be determining is if we will allow package stores within the city limits of Tifton. And so we have to prepare for that to take place. So Jessica, do you or Rob want to go over the information that you presented on the recommendations?
I've included some examples if y'all want to look those over. We're just trying to get some guidance on, suggestions from you all if it this me? If it, you know, once we get on the ballot, if it passes, how are we going to, you know, what are the
Right.
standards gonna be? Those are a lot of the questions that I'm being asked. People
Right.
are, you know, maybe looking for a place.
Sure.
You know, in anticipation, so, I think it would be best if we try to go ahead and start those discussions and get something
I
drafted.
agree, yeah.
Correct? Jessica and Rob?
Basically, state law says you cannot have a package store closer than 500 yards from another package store. And generally, what we've been looking at naturally would be, first thing would be zoning. You know, where would you allow from a zoning standpoint? And we've kind of looked at the zoning map. You know, general business seems like to be the most reasonable zoning designation for package stores. One of the things that I think that is highlights the conversations about these restrictions is, you know, how many package stores do we want? Where do we want them located? We've talked about things such as having them only on arterial streets, which is basically your main streets like Tift Avenue and Love. We've also, you know, talked about not having them, you know, in a strip mall center, having it in a standalone building, perhaps, you know, ensuring that, you know, the frontage is sufficiently visible so you can see into the store. We've talked about, you know, certain security requirements, security cameras. We've also talked about the idea of how to limit the number of package stores. And again, I think, you know, your state law is going to limit you, you know, going to have some limitation on it. But, and I think Jessica may have provided, might have been from the city of Ackworth, that has, you know, so many licenses per number of people. And that was kind of the things that we were looking at. One of the things that I noticed down in Florida, that's how they handle it. They have a lottery to get a, I forget what, I think they call it a quota or something. But anyway, it's like one license per 7,500 people. And that really applies across the board in Florida, both with bars and restaurants and package stores. So one of the things that we were looking at is, you know, if we wanted to try to limit the number of package stores, do it similar to a lottery, and then, you know, have maybe one per 5,000, and then you would, you might have a total then of 3 licenses for someone who would be able to have a package store, and that would be decided by lottery. So those are some of the things that we've kind of thrown out there for the council's consideration, to let me know what you think about certain requirements, number of licenses, where they're located. All of those things I think is, you know, something that you should consider depending on what you want to see as far as the development and the number of package stores, you know, in the city. So that's where we kind of are. We want to put something, at least on paper, for y'all to talk about.
Okay. Well, gentlemen?
Take a store like Walmart. Are we gonna allow Walmart to sell liquor?
In the state of Georgia, you can only sell a very small percentage. I think it's around 5% of anything but liquor in a liquor store.
So Georgia won't allow that? Is that what you're telling me? Good Lord.
So there you go.
Louisiana allows that. Lord have mercy.
Are you saying you can buy liquor at a convenience store or something?
We have to have separate stores.
No, it has to be separate. That is the state law.
Of course it is, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
MJ?
It
you
was
had-
just a thought, I don't know, that I have one beverage store in each district.
I don't know, it's just, it's up to y'all.
Well, I'm just-
If we do it if we do it per the population, then that limits it to 2, right? 3.
Three.
3. So
If you do, you could go to about.
you just drop that number down?
You drop it.
Some are, I think some
Did it
five and some are.
3750.
I like it being in the general business.
Yeah, I like that
Yeah, I like
too.
that, I'm not cool with that. I'm also, okay, one thing, the lottery, all right, and I like that you have to be a Tift County resident. I like that part of it. What is the cost for the lottery? Is there any cost associated with the lottery?
I would assume that there will be an application fee.
Right, non-refundable application fee? And if I were to, win the lottery, is my license guaranteed until or do I have to go through the lottery process every year?
I would, we really haven't got into the weeds on this,
Yeah.
but I think that if you win the lottery, then I think that you should be required to have a business plan, know that you got the seat of the pants in order to do it, and then, have a requirement that you apply for your building permit or whatever in a certain amount of time, so that if somebody wins the lottery and they do not carry through with, opening the store, then you get, they draw another name, so to speak. So, and that's kind of what they do down in Florida. You have, so many licenses that may come available through the year because they got revoked or somebody goes out of business, then they just draw another name. So I do think that there should be some type of requirement that if your name is drawn, that you have certain requirements that you have to meet in order to utilize that, to get the license. And should you not fulfill those things a certain amount of time, then another name would be drawn, or a number, however we go about that.
And so once you get it, the other part of your question, you have it as long as you want to stay in business.
Yes, you'll have, forever, as long as you continue in business.
You're not breaking any laws and not violating our regulations of any
Yeah,
way.
unless we
That's
have
right.
some reason to revoke
Yes,
that
yeah.
license.
Would the alcohol license be similar to if I owned a restaurant and I were to, I guess y'all ain't got to that deep into it. I would, what I'm saying is that this should be a privilege, you know what I'm saying? Like, because if you are limited to the number of stores, essentially you are going to be a profitable business, right? You would assume, it would be almost
You would
naive
think.
to assume.
Well, I would really want to work very closely, with Crystal to make sure that our standards, our building standards are very specific. For example, like you talked about the glass for, to be able to see in, that there be security, there be lighting, there be, all those appropriate things, for lack of a better word, that would enhance the area versus detract from the area. I think that's the aesthetics of it, I think, are very important. I'd want to make sure that Chief was at the table to, for any concerns on security and safety and, underage sales, or, whatever I know that they deal with on a regular basis without package sales, when we're just talking about beer and wine sales. But I really like this preliminary recommendation. I think this is really good. I have no problem with each district having a store. It's whatever the council wants to do, but I think this is a really good start to begin that conversation. And this gives us the time to really look at, maybe what some other towns are doing, or what we want, in light of that. So I think this is a really good start.
Well, perhaps what we could do, as MJ was talking about, maybe have one in every district, and we can come up with some options about how that would work, and then maybe how we would do it on population, how that would work. But I think that, Mayor, as you're saying, I think this is a pretty good starting point. I think some of the things are kind of no-brainers, like general business, standalone building,
Right.
having your store frontage. And we can kind of work out, I think the most complicated thing is, the application process, how many we're going to have, and how we're going to make that determination.
But I do agree with Wes, there needs to be substantial data or information provided when they submit for their lottery to show that they have the funds, they have the plans, they have the financial back, whatever it is, to make sure that we're not tying another prospect up, waiting on someone to step out of the way. And that they have a limited time to get started on the process, because I also don't want us to appoint you know, these 4 stores or how many stores we have, and then a year later, nobody's opened anything because everybody's dragging their feet or something. So to say you have to get started within a certain amount of time.
And we need to figure out a way to narrow that window as to whether or not, I mean, if somebody wants to apply as a company, you don't want
Right.
100 people saying we're partners and then have 100 people
Yeah.
applying, so we're gonna have to kind of tweak that some. You know, we start thinking about who's your applicant, so to
Right.
speak.
Because I could see, you know, Tifton would be wide open. I could see, you know, some of these larger chains wanting to come in and,
Well, in Florida, I mean, they have every year thousands of applicants.
sure.
And because they can sell there, if they get it, they can sell it. And so that's why.
Ours would be non-transferable.
Non-transferable.
Okay. Yeah, because I
But
don't
they
want someone making money off of the process of getting the lottery, yeah, so.
I just want to reiterate, because I know Councilman Terrell said it, that a liquor store can't go in a convenience store.
Right,
So that was
That
one of the
would
things that we
prohibit
talked
this, yeah.
about specifically.
so you can't have, you know, ABC convenience store selling Doritos and Coca-Colas and bourbon in the
General
back.
business, some of these places, general business is gonna take care of some of these.
Yeah.
Because some of these convenience stores are in that neighborhood commercial, and
Yeah.
that
Let
kind
me ask you that, because that's what, you know, if we do it per district, there's a handful of general business zoning parcels in my district. I mean, there wouldn't be, and I don't know,
of, I don't think, I mean, this isn't a,
I don't wanna do it per, I would say if we're gonna do something like that, I would say set a number, let's say, just say 4, and that's, here are the parameters of where you could place one.
You've
I
got,
mean, this is city, I mean,
Yeah.
this is private business. This is citywide. Y'all know my feeling, I don't see in restricting the number. I mean, to me, it's a supply and demand. When the government gets into the business, into private business and says, well, you can only have this, and you know this, Wes, you can't talk out both sides of your mouth. This is private business, and the government telling us how many business we can have, then there's problems. I mean, not that we want 100, but Tifton can't support 100. Tifton probably can't support 20, but I suspect they can support more than 4. So wherever you want to locate within the city, and you know, you're gonna have just as much issue with beer and wine, that, you know, as far as the police issues as you are gonna have with hard liquor.
well, we've got the, you know, the state requirements to deal with, and, you know, their proximity to each other and other businesses, so,
Right, that restricts.
yeah.
And also, the distance requirements, is it gonna be from door, or is it gonna be to parcel? You know, we had to change that.
The 500 yards?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, are we doing it from parcel to parcel, or are we gonna do it from front door to?
I have the statute, I think it was I think it was parcel to parcel. The statute says exactly what, you know, distance requirement. I can't remember if it was door to door or parcel to parcel.
Of the statute that you
It's on that, second page of the.
500 yards from any other business licensed to sell.
What'd you say?
The most direct route from any other business, so it's saying business to business.
So I would say parcel to parcel.
Well, I think it needs to be clarified a little bit, because you're gonna have an argument, well, I feel like this is a better way to get in, and let's count it from this way instead of counting from that way.
Exactly.
All right, and you see, Rob had mentioned, the city of, he's put some other communities, Ackworth and LaGrange and some other communities, and how they've handled this.
What about distance from, even if it is GB or arterial street, distance to a residential parcel?
Residential what?
Residential.
So you
Parcel.
could have GB on one side of the street, and you might have residential on the other side of the street. So the question is, do you want to have a distance requirement from the package store to any residential properties?
That's what we have in there, with alcohol.
That's what I'm saying, I mean, it's,
But if you think of the South Central, arterial street, that one, 41, 5th Avenue, all of those have abutting properties that are,
We started to look at that the other day, arterial streets, GB, and whether or not, where you might have issues between having a package store on an arterial street, where it might be GB and across the street might be residential, but we really didn't have enough of an opportunity to see exactly how much area is impacted as far as that type of restriction.
We're definitely set on it being a standalone store.
I think it needs to be personally. I think that's the safest, most secure. And that's just a personal opinion. I mean, y'all may decide differently, but that's just personally what I
don't
feel, so.
disagree with that. And but if you got general business on one side and residential, well, that, chances are, they built their house or bought their house when it was general business across the street. And when you do that, because I've been very clear on not changing zoning, once it's set, I just don't see I think you have more issues with beer and wine, because they're in these stores, they're on Fifth Avenue and across the street's residential, than you are about somebody going to buy a bottle of whiskey. They don't just generally just open that up and just start guzzling whiskey while they're in the car. They'll do that with a beer or something, but I just don't see the issue there. I think you got more issues with convenience stores selling beer and wine than you would with a standalone
Well, I have
package
a
store.
problem with it being, like, so if it's zone general business and it has, let's say you have a building that's got multiple units inside, as long as you meet the requirements that by the ordinance, yeah, because,
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, which I know everybody, whoever the big boys are gonna come in and deal what they want, but you might have some smaller players that wanna go, or even some big boys that wanna go inside of a plaza, like a plaza, which they would probably be the last thing to close unless we set we can, we're allowed to set the time they open and close as well. But
there's a lot of
but I'm not
discussion.
thinking something that's commercial, strip mall, because I'm just thinking of places that I've seen traveling that
Yeah.
have these stores, and they're nice stores, but,
I could see where it would be appropriate in some places,
Yeah.
but inappropriate in others. So it could be if it's over 8,000 square foot or something. There's a lot of little places that are plazas that somebody might try to see.
WLI, what is that?
Wholesale light industrial,
wholesale.
And then CD,
commercial downtown.
commercial downtown?
What if, Rob, we'll get a couple more, maybe examples, and put together something more concrete for you to look at. Again, we want to have this ready for you in November, by time the voting is taken, because by December 1, if it passes, then we're certainly going to have a lot of interest in it. So we'll put together something more concrete for you to look at.
Okay.
Yes.
Is that good?
And if you have any ideas, please email those to Pete and Rob and Jessica,
Okay.
of what you'd like to see, and then they can research that and
Okay. All right.
let's do that, okay? All right, everybody good with that? Okay. All right, thank y'all. Under our resolutions that we'll be discussing and voting on at our next meeting, the next item is resolution designating the Rhythm and Ribs Barbecue Festival as a festival pursuant to our festival ordinance. The dates for that and the request letter from our Tourism Association is in our packet. This is nothing new. We've done this each year. So they are looking at Friday, October the 8th and Saturday, October the 9th. So it would be just as we've done in years past. We've got the festival area and everything's there in your packet. Any questions? None? Okay. All right. Moving along, resolution on the abandoning the alley located at 1629 Tift Avenue and declaring that surplus. Pete, Rob?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, just behind Chick-fil-A, there was a designated old alley that's actually behind the parking lot of Chick-fil-A.
That's next.
This is the one
Oh, Tift
for
Avenue?
This is Kate.
Tift Avenue.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. For whatever reason, this is the property just north of the Dollar General on Tift Avenue. And there is a 10-foot by 50-foot rectangular piece of property within that parcel that's owned by the city of Tifton. I don't have a clue why. Met with Jeff and Adam this morning, just to make sure that there's nothing there that the city owns or needs to use it for. And there is absolutely nothing out there, and I have no clue why that 10 by 50-foot rectangular shape is owned by the city. But in any event, what we wanted to do is declare that surplus and go ahead and sell that to the property owner, because the city has absolutely no use for it.
There are no utilities.
It's north of, you said north of the between Dollar General and
Behind Northside
It's
Capital.
behind
North
Northside.
Side.
Yeah, behind Northside.
Did we happen to ask Joe Lewis if he knew what was behind that, why the city might have had it?
I don't see why. I mean, right now, it has no viable potential use, by the city. And Jeff checked it out this morning.
I mean, I'm just curious, he might know what was behind it in the first place.
I have a feeling, and I'm just guessing, there is an alley across 18th Street, and it was probably just an extension of an alley that, would have given access to those properties that face Tift, and it's never been used. It was never, designated, it was designated as an alley, but it was never identified as an alley where you'd have maybe paving or landscaping or something that would separate that parcel. I'm just guessing. I could be totally wrong, but.
I mean, we do have the drainage ditch does go north and south behind the property.
Yeah.
But this is of no consequence to the drainage stuff.
Okay.
So,
So did y'all have a question? Wait a minute, we got two separate y'all, we can't have these private conversations, I'm sorry. I just want.
Where's that?
Okay, but I'm just saying, it looks like y'all are having a private conversation, and that could be, that's not good. So if there's a question, ask these guys.
Show them where the spot is.
Yeah.
it's,
I'm just watching the screen if you want to put it up there, that's what's on.
Okay.
do you have, the plat should have been in your stuff?
It is on page 46 of our 57-page documents.
And it's described as tract 2, MJ, on that plat. And if you look at it's the property just, I think, to the south, and you'll see just a little dotted line, rectangle, and it shows a 10-foot by 50-foot parcel of land.
Yes, I see.
Yeah, and I have no idea why it's there. Again, we have no
It could
utilities
have been a
there.
driveway for a proposed something
Right,
going
I
in there,
mean-
who knows?
So anyway, bottom line is we have no use for it. There's no utilities there. We were just gonna have that, declared surplus and then just sell it for fair market value to the property owner.
All right, any other questions? Okay, now you want to talk about the other parcel?
Right,
Rob.
this was appeared to be a designated alley, according to some old plats, this is the, Dallas Hunt area, and they wanted us to sell to them what is designated as the 20-foot alley on these old plats, and it was very difficult really to locate the exact, alley. So we asked them to go ahead and survey where the alley was, and they did that. And then Jeff and ESG went out to do a locate on the utilities. And it turned out that when we did the locate on the utilities were actually not within the alley. So what we have suggested is that we surplus the alley, to the property owner, and then in exchange, they will give us a permanent easement for that area where the utilities actually lie. So basically, this is just a swap. We're gonna give them the alley. They give us a permanent easement for the area within the easement area for our utilities.
Okay. All right, and that plat is also, that survey is also in your package, so.
So who owns what? You got Chick-fil-A, and then
I can't, it's not, I'm sorry, I don't have that in front of me, but there's a company, I can't, BLM,
BCF Tift
Right.
LLC.
And they own both sides of, they own behind Chick-fil-A, and then they own to the north of that. So they own that entire tract in which both the easement and the alley are located.
So we don't know who that is?
Yes, I mean, it's.
The Hunt
That
family.
is-
It's one of their, Dallas Hunt is who has talked to us about this, to be able to develop that area back through there.
So that's within the city limits. Interesting. Okay.
So, I don't know what their proposed development is, but we did meet with them out there, Pete, probably 2 or 3 months ago.
Yeah, and really, I think from a standpoint of the swap, I think it's certainly, we're definitely getting a good value for a permanent easement, to maintain those utilities.
Okay.
All right, does that make sense? Any other questions anybody have? You good? Did you have a question? No. Okay, okay. All righty. All right, moving on, Pete, you want to go over the updated schedule of fees?
If you remember, every year when we include the budget, we update the fee sheet, schedule of fees that Jessica uses, as well as customer service. So we did not do that this year because of some pending items, and we're ready to bring that forward. The highlighted areas are the areas that have changed from last year. Begin with the garbage rates. Those are just the updated amounts. The inert material for a contractor, that has changed. The second page, you'll see water restriction surcharges. This is something from EPD that they say that we need to have in our schedule of fees in case there was ever a conservation or a water restriction in place. So we never had that, and we updated the amounts that they were recommending. So that has to be in our schedule of fees just in case we need it. On the third page, land disturbance plan review fee is $250. This is something that we're doing maybe 9-10 times a year, but this is, we're not even coming close to covering our costs because of the work that has to be done for the work for all the disturbance plan review. So it's something that we do for the benefit of a contractor, and I don't think we even had we never had an amount for that. So, Crystal and I've talked, and we both agree we need to charge something to recoup the cost. That's probably, a quarter of what really time and money that we put into the land disturbance, but that's part of our services. So that is something that we'd like to have on there. And then I gave you a couple copies of some messages, and then if you remember during the budget hearings and the budget proposals, one of the things that I am recommending is that we address the water and sewer rates. And again, as a recap, water rates have not been adjusted since 2010. Sewer rates have not been adjusted since 2018. So again, the rates are way behind, but nevertheless, our services continue to be very strong. This increase would go towards what's called operation and maintenance. And with that monies for water, it would be about $300,000 increase of revenue, and then sewer $250,000. But again, for the last 5-10 years, costs of materials have gone up tremendously. We have ESG for employee raises for ESG that they do from the company. We have O&M projects that we could be doing, but we just simply need a little more revenue. So it's small items that are system necessary, but all in all, with the revenue, we absolutely need to keep our eyes fixated on that as we continue to go forward. So the proposed updates and additions, you see that what it means. And again, it's not a very large increase for a home using 6,000 gallons of water. And again, just as a reminder in the contract that the city sets the rates with with our interlocal agreement. So that's something that we have a burden to do that. And then specifically with what we're dealing with, this is something that it's uniformly applied, and it's something that we have a legitimate use for. So just like I gave you the priority project plan, as we develop this rate, obviously I'll have a detailed plan on the O&M increases, on what we're going to be using this monies for. But I wanted to present this to you and see if you have any questions, and if you're in agreement.
Well, you know, not having an increase since 2010, and I looked at rates over from probably 15 surrounding communities, and I think ours was the lowest, if I'm not mistaken. Even after this increase, would be in the bottom tier of rates. Sewer, you know, if we're not careful, we would get out of compliance with the bonds. You know, that's why we went up in 2018. It was you either do it or you're out of compliance with the bond thing. And we need to start, you know, I mean, costs have gone up, and to strictly rely on SPLOST and grants and stuff to do any infrastructure issue with this water and sewer, it's a ticking time bomb as far as I'm concerned. Shame on us for not looking at it over the last 11 years and doing 1% or 2% or something as costs have escalated. This to me is a minimum, and it's just something we just need to do.
Yeah. It's just part of the structure of fees. Again, I couldn't agree more, but there again, it's something that, you know, we have to be certainly mindful. I'll inform the county, just like we always do, inform the county of what we're doing and why, and send that over to them. But we really probably have to adopt the schedule of fees, so we have something that we use for our documents within normal business. So.
All right, so anyone got any questions, comments, suggestions?
What was Brandy and Andy's, I know he says, you answered some of his questions in this email. What was his response to those answers that you gave? It says, Brandon and I will discuss tomorrow with your answers to the above questions and send an answer.
Yeah, this was just internal communications. They did not reply back, and you know, I haven't heard anything else. But my comments are in the red. Right. But that's something that was just internal, making sure that they knew what we were doing and why.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Okey-doke. City manager report.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to report that Fran Kitchen's back at the senior center from her accident, her leg, and she is healed nicely. She's moving slow, but actually this is her first day back, and you know, the center is doing well, and Tasha certainly held down the fort while she was away, but I'm glad Fran's back, and she has a lot of catching up to do. The groundbreaking, happy to share, and I'll send this out, I don't need to do this now, but the groundbreaking for 9 Oak Apartments will be Wednesday, September 29th at 10 o'clock. And this is the housing complex that we've been waiting for. So they're ready to go, and they're doing everything that needs to happen. Kirsten's working with their folks with marketing on this, and we should have a real good showing. But Councilman Terrell, I'll get you up to speed on that, just like we did the last time, and what they have planned for the groundbreaking, since this is in your district. So again, this is a big day for us. We've been waiting for this particular moment. Again, just like the youth center groundbreaking, and then they're going to go out to bid, and we should see some dirt moving. Once they have that groundbreaking, we really should see them get to work. So I'm happy to announce that. You know, I keep sharing with you that you know, we're proud of our accomplishments, and I dropped off an official copy of the annual report to you. But this is really a proud document for us, and I wanted to again publicly thank Kirsten for all her work with that. There was a lot into it, but this is the final report, and I think it really came out great, and I'm excited to share that with you. And then, you know, with Emily and the staff, we continue to think of creative ways that we could endure this situation with workers. We're no different than any other company, and that workers are looking in other areas and trying to determine what's best for them. And again, I think we're doing a lot of work with our employees at hand. And I know that we talked briefly during the budget, and you elected to have it as part of a budget item, but the 3% for the raises was in there, and I wanted to ask your thoughts. I know we had this conversation, and again, I'm throwing it out just as what we're dealing with today. If there's any way if you would entertain looking at that a little early, because I certainly think it would be very well received from our workforce if you decide to do that. So I wanted to mention that. I think it's important enough that for the employees and where we are, I think it'd be a really, really good gesture at this particular time. So.
I agree with you. I think we ought to move forward and bring it forward.
I hear you, sorry.
I'm sorry, I said, I think it's a good idea and it should bring it forward.
Well, again, I'm not putting you on the spot. I'm just bringing, we're in a tough spot in some areas, and some departments are seeing the result of that. And again, I know what I committed to you. You kept it in the budget, but again, I don't want to.
I know we have issues, but is money the issue? I mean, do we know? Are we doing exit interviews that say, I'm leaving because I could get more money somewhere else? I mean, we need to know that. Our first thought is that they left because of more money. And we've had this discussion, and I continue to bring up the pension and the cost, and what people don't realize the benefit of that is that weekly check, and I understand that fully. So when was the last increase? Was it February or January? I don't remember. It
was before that. I think it was end of December.
End of December. Okay.
Yep. And again, we have surveyed, and we look at exit interviews very closely. Probably the last 3 or 4 have been for money, but again, it's keeping up with inflation and struggling to with the groceries and bills, etc. I think it's a movement of the time, and I'm simply bringing that to your attention to see if you had any opinions either way. I'm ready if you are.
Okay. All right. And when you say when would that go into effect? Next month?
I just wanted to have a discussion and see. Emily and I talked, and we had a meeting late last week, and I said it's just time to mention that to you, and we could kick it off at the end of the month. We could kick it off in October.
Okay. So you can set the date or we can set the date for when
Yes.
that would go into effect. Okay. Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
And then lastly, I'll call on Crystal. She wanted to make an introduction to one of her new employees, and I don't know if you had to met Sparky from Code Enforcement, but Sparky resigned. He went to another company to better himself, which was good. So Don couldn't be here tonight. Crystal hired another Code Enforcement officer, but Crystal, you want to introduce Isaac?
The Department of Community Development is happy to introduce you to Isaac Felton. Isaac will be serving as the Community Development Coordinator. He's originally a native of Fort Valley, but has lived in the city of Savannah for several years. He has served as the Crime Reduction Director with the End Gun Violence Initiative in Savannah, where he was the liaison between the DA's office and the police department. Prior to this, Isaac served as the Program Manager with the Chatham County Commissioner's Workforce Program. He has a strong background in working with nonprofits and social programs, and I think we are very lucky to have him here with the City of Tipton. Isaac, would you like to say anything?
First of all, I just want to thank the City of Tifton for giving me the opportunity. Like Crystal said, I come from doing a lot of community work in the City of Tifton, made a lot of changes, helped a lot of people, and I'm looking forward to doing the same thing here with the the Department of Community Development and growing with the city. So I just want to thank you all for the opportunity. And the motto for the city has really been friendly to me. I've met a lot of great people during my time here, and I'm just continuing to look forward and grow with the city of Tifton. Thank you.
Thank you, Isaac. We are very excited to have you join the team. I've heard some great, your reputation precedes you. I've heard great things from some of the Savannah council members who've had the opportunity to work with you. So we're very excited to have you here and part of this organization, and know that you'll do great work with all the folks here. So welcome. We're glad to have you.
So, yeah, Isaac will be the point person working closely with the URA board. He's not replacing Bruce. His duties are going to encompass the entire city. So Crystal has a work plan, and we're talking about from CHIP housing to Isaac's going to head up the scrap tire event that we're having next month. So he'll be busy citywide, and then lead that board to the next step.
Perfect.
And engage them in goal setting. But all in all, he's going to learn all facets of community improvement, community development. So we're glad to have you.
Welcome, Isaac. Very good. Very good. Good to welcome new people. All right, Pete, what else you got?
That's all I have. Thank
That's
you.
it? All right. We'll go through mayor and council comments, and then we do need to do a quick executive session for personnel reasons. So does anybody want to kick things off on comments? Everybody's looking,
I'm
pointing.
good, I'm good.
I'm good.
You good? You good?
Yeah.
Come on, Jack.
I'm entertained. I'll leave safety to last, but first I just want to, Ryland appears to me to be doing a better job from what I've seen. We need some, I guess, some more instructions to residents of how to handle things, like not pile up stuff on top of the can, because I don't know how they empty it when it's all on top, and breaking down boxes for this recycle. I see and I walk about 3 miles in the morning all the way through, and I see cans, and they're just overflowing. Well, these big old boxes that aren't broken down. So it was a requirement with Golden, it's a requirement with Ryland. If you break down your boxes, you can get a whole lot more in the can. And it's a whole lot easier for them, and there's not the risk of it falling everywhere. So if people would please do that, and please don't put things on top of the can. If you got too much, hold it till next week.
Put cans away.
But, oh, there is that. We do have issues with some people not putting cans away, especially when a storm is coming and the can ends up in 2 houses down.
Right.
So,
They do travel.
it does become, yes, they do travel. But, the other, I guess I just can't help myself, but COVID is still out there. We had the 50-year-old daughter of a friend passed away over the weekend from COVID. Georgia's sitting here with a low percentage of vaccinations. And so what's happening? There's a new variant out there. And if you think for 1 minute that the unvaccinated aren't creating this issue with this new variant, then you're not listening to science and you're not listening to doctors, because that is what is happening. If you're vaccinated, can you catch COVID? Absolutely. Are you likely to die? Not very likely at all. Are you likely to be in the hospital? It can happen, but you're not going to probably end up in the ICU or on a vent. So I plead with people. I haven't heard of anybody, I don't know of anybody that's died from getting the vaccine. Now, maybe you can hear one person throughout the mind, not one person dying from getting the vaccine. But we're at 650,000 people plus that have died of COVID. The hospital's full again. I mean, it's just, please, and I did not comment about the rhythm and ribs, and that's a month from now, and I'm hopeful that we will see a drop. But having a crowd of people, even though it's outside, shoulder to shoulder, face to face, is a super spreader event that we just don't need. So I am hoping and praying that in a month's time, we'll see a drop and we won't have the issues. But if you hadn't gotten the vaccine, please talk to your doctor. Don't listen to me or watch the TV. Talk to your doctor and see what he or she tells you, and then do it.
All right, I'll wrap things up very quickly. You've probably all seen in the grapevine and newspaper, we had Senator John Ossoff in Tifton a couple of weeks ago. And I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank all of the people who participated in that. What they didn't talk about, which was not hush-hush, but it just wasn't reported on really. It was, they talked about the broadband bill and broadband and infrastructure, which is very important. But during that visit, we had about 25 or 30 people at a roundtable discussion that was held at Matt Wilson School. And they represented a good, diverse cross-section of this community, from the hospital, school system, economic development agencies, law enforcement, agriculture, state and federal elected offices, our urban redevelopment chamber, just a good cross-section. And Jack and I attended as city council representatives, and it was really a very positive conversation. I was very pleasantly surprised with, one, how respectful and engaging the conversation was amongst all of these different groups in the roundtable at the library at Matt Wilson. But I was very appreciative of Senator Ossoff's willingness to hear our concerns. He took lots and lots of notes. His staff people all took notes. We have we're going to have a wrap-up meeting, kind of a debriefing meeting with the staff tomorrow. Pete and I will be on that call. They want to come back to Tifton, and they are engaged, and they are plugged in and ready to talk more about what they can do to be of service and assistance to us, their constituents. So just thank you. And Chief, I know that you worked diligently with our police department to provide that extra security and things that they needed while they were here. So thank you for that. I really do appreciate that. But it was an outstanding meeting. Jack, I don't know if you have anything you want to add, but it was just very, it was very impressive how they handled everything.
It was excellent. And until you can get a John Ossoff here or something, then nothing happens. But having him here, I want to thank the mayor for getting it set up when she went to Washington, and that's how it all came about. And so, thank you, Mayor, for doing that, because
what we all do. We represent our town. So
that's how these things work.
Yeah.
Joe Lewis told me years ago, he and Paul Johnson went to Washington. That's how they got money for the airport.
Yeah.
They talked with the right people and got money for that airport. And that's what happens. And you talking to John Office, we will see results.
We'll see results of that meeting. And there'll be more meetings, and there'll be more visits. So I just, again, want to thank all of those that were involved, and just thank them for their candid discussion. And it really left an impression. So
tell us where you did a tour.
we did a driving tour.
Tell us where all that went.
We started off, we had a very thoughtful plan for where we went. We started off we drove through downtown, wanted to see our nice downtown, and then drove up towards the hospital area to see all of the work that's going on at Southwell and that gazillion-dollar expansion and everything that's going on there. Kind of drove through some neighborhoods and then worked our way back down through the urban redevelopment area, looking at challenges from everything from how do we get people into medical facilities if they don't have vehicles, if they don't have a transportation. We don't have a public transportation system here, so how do you get people into their doctor's visits? We talked a lot about infrastructure. We talked about broadband. But we did a very, Pete was our driver and did a really good job of covering all aspects and areas of the community. And we wanted to show the difference too in the tax base from the north side of Tifton across 82, which is a wonderful thing to have coming through our community because it brings all of that commerce, but it also creates a barrier between the north and south of Tifton. So we talked about that and how we can bridge and how we can be one Tifton and provide the resources and everything that's necessary for all citizens so that there's not a great divide. So we wanted him to see this part of our community and then work our way back into that part of our community. And we went by Newfront. We went by the area where we'll be breaking ground with IDP for the new apartment complex. Again, had the meeting at Matt Wilson very purposefully, wanted to do that so that we could not only get him and his team into that facility, that school facility, and Adam Hathaway and the school system were incredible to work with to make sure that happened, so thank you to them. But we wanted our participants in the roundtable to see this, in case they had not been through the urban redevelopment area. Maybe they'd not been down there for several years or just didn't know. So it was a humbling experience, but I was very thankful for everything that happened.
So he went through that urban.
That whole urban
area.
redevelopment area, absolutely.
You know,
Mhm.
Facebook is a terrible thing, and you're
No.
not on it anymore, but, there was a comment or two about
Yeah.
not, probably not going down. And I did
But we
not-
did. We
I
covered
did not
all of-
respond
yeah.
back, And I just let them talk.
Yeah.
But they didn't know what they were talking
No,
about.
we covered all of Tifton, and the good, the bad, the ugly. This was not just the let's come show you the pretty parts of town. This is the reality tour, and this is why we need your help, and why we need you to be engaged with your constituents. Your constituents are our constituents, and he heard that. So I'm just very thankful for that. And it was not a Republican or Democrat. It was not a red and blue. It was Tifton, and engaging in what's best for Tifton. So again, just wanted to say thank you to all of those who participated and helped with that conversation. So it was a very good day for Tifton and a good day for me. So, all right, that being said, we do need I need a motion to go into executive session for personnel reasons. So we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. So MJ motion, Jack second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, we'll take about a 1-minute break and then we'll go into executive session.